What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Franchise Empire newsletter. My name is Tarek Johnson. I'm going to start doing this formal intro now because I realize some of you may be brand new when you're watching this, but my name is Tarek Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire, and I'm here with Mr. Mark Magerman. Mark, who are you?
I work with Tarek. My job is helping build our franchise brokerage division, which is the reason I'm joining you guys today. So maybe there's some people out there we know, and if there's anybody new, welcome. Our job is to educate and excite about franchise ownership.
Educate and excite. I feel like we should, that should be something we use in our marketing now. I like that.
You can claim it. You can take it as your own.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
I will give you credit every time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, today we will talk about an ultra low cost franchise with recurring revenue. We will talk about an established resale with recurring revenue and a manager in place. And we'll talk about a client who had to deal with the overwhelming amount of franchise options. Excuse me. And some of you guys may be dealing with something like that as well. And then our most recent podcast episode, The Truth About Buying a Food Franchise in 2025. So we're going to dive into these items today. For those of you who are joining us live, drop a comment. Let me know what city and state you're tuning in from. And if you're watching the replay of this, type in replay. Okay, well, let's hit it. So in terms of a resale, so the resale that we have today is one called Maid, and I think we may have covered this resale with this brand before, if not this one. Basically, Maid is you guys have probably heard of it, but they are a cleaning company, right? So they provide a affordable solution to messy and dirty houses, and they have more than 450 individually owned Maid cleaning franchises operating across the U.S. Last year, they performed 1.7 million cleaning services, and 90% of which were for repeat customers. So this is not a brand that you can reach out to me and Mark and be able to find a new territory and launch from new, because they have 450 franchises. Right. So there's generally no more territory availability, but there is this resale that is available. And this particular one is in Woodway, Texas. They opened in 2016. Asking price is $275,000. Their last year revenue was over $700,000. In order to access cash flow information, you do need to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So let me drop a little the link here, which is franchiseempire.com/resales. If you want to find out more information about this particular resale, and we can help facilitate that. They serve residential and commercial customers. Again, a recurring revenue business. There's 6 vehicles that this business has. I'm not 100% sure if the vehicles are included in the purchase price. Sometimes it's separate. We get access to sometimes limited information on these resales, but we can get you access to the more specifics. There is a manager in this business and 11 home service professionals, aka cleaners. Mark, what's your thoughts on this sort of brand, and then I'll kind of go through our takes and this opportunity in general.
Yeah, no, when you get a brand like Maid that has over 450 franchise owners, Tarek's exactly right. It's not a brand you can get into unless there's resales. If you guys have listened to me on these calls the last few weeks, I walk very trepidatiously through resales because there's a lot of minefields along the way. They can be tremendously lucrative. In a case like this, when a brand comes up and it's a resale in a brand that has no availability, I pay a little bit more attention to them. I think they're a lot more robust, and I think they're a lot more profitable, because I think the reasons why people are getting out is the reason other franchisees aren't buying them out is because the other franchisees already own them. So these are really good. And again, the more boring the business, sometimes the more lucrative. Nothing's more boring than cleaning people's homes or offices. So this is a great business. They've been around forever. If you guys are interested in resales, this is a really good one to look into because it's very solid, and the recurring revenue is absolutely real. Because people who I know, I've had a company clean my home for going on 12 years now. Once they do a good job, you keep them, right? There's no reason to find them. So you do a good job. It's a recurring revenue stream. It's a great business. I love it a lot.
Yeah, great. All solid points. And so just to clarify a couple things, guys, the owner's role, as you can imagine in this business, is to lead the business, not clean, right? So your role is to lead your team. Probably one of the biggest challenges in this business is hiring and staffing and retaining your employees. But that is a challenge in every business, by the way.
Absolutely.
So, every business entrepreneur you'll speak to will always say probably their biggest challenge is recruiting, hiring, training, retaining their team members. And Mark, I mean, how many people were when you guys had your 13 locations? What was the highest amount of employees that you guys had at one point?
312.
Wow, that's intense.
I can be pretty exact about that because we're paying 312 people every week, so I knew that. So the other comment I'd make regarding this brand, this resale, general manager in place is fantastic, but please, if you're interested in going down the road, don't make the mistake of assuming that this general manager is going to be in place for the next 10 years while you run your business. Just always you have to get to know that person. You got to treat that person well. You may even want to think of maybe giving them an equity opportunity if they're good. Don't rely on don't get involved in this business and say, I don't have to work this business at all because I have a general manager in place. It may be the case, but it may not be the case. Please, please, please make sure you're doing your due diligence on all that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. So existing resales with what I would consider this a large team, really 10 or more employees. I would consider a large team for this purpose. And excuse me. It could be a great opportunity for those of you who have management and leadership experience. It could be very challenging if you've never managed people or led a team. It's like trying to learn how to drive in a supercar, where it's just maybe a little bit too much to handle too quick. Now this business, recurring revenue, right? Which again, we talked about that. That's the beauty of this sort of business. And generally, like Mark said, and there are some recurring revenue businesses where churn is a big obstacle, meaning the amount of clients that you're losing every month and you're constantly having to get more and more new ones, like fitness businesses or some of these wellness ones. But to Mark's point, generally speaking, and having had house cleaners for the last 7 or 8 years and different ones, if someone's doing a good job, if the company's doing a good job, you keep them. And people who have house cleaners, unless something has changed in their life, like maybe they got laid off or something like that, they're generally going to continue to keep having cleaners and housekeepers. So it's
a couple other points to that, Tarek. Absolutely, because you don't want strangers continuing coming into your home, number one. But number two, this is even more poignant in terms of recurring revenue for commercial opportunities. Because if you have a commercial agreement, you're cleaning offices, you're cleaning office spaces, you're probably signing that contract with the property manager for over 1 or 2. And I promise you, they've got so much on their plate, they are not evaluating your performance on a week-to-week basis. As long as you show up with your team on time and do a credible job, that business will stay with you for years and years and years. And that's where leadership comes into play, making sure you've got good relationships with these customers of yours, especially on the commercial side, because I promise they don't want to replace you. You make their lives easier.
Yeah, really, really good points there. The other thing is work-life balance, guys. You can maintain family-friendly work hours with no on-call or emergency work. So
do keep in mind, though, that commercial cleaning will be nights and weekends sometimes. You can't get away from that. That's, most of the office cleaning work is at night. Doesn't mean you as the owner are doing it, but you need to have crews that are available to do it. And it doesn't mean you won't get an emergency call in the evening some night because something happens. It's just part of being the life of a business owner in general. But understand that the commercial side does have some differences in the residential side. You will not be getting any calls from a resident at 2:00 in the morning saying you didn't clean underneath my refrigerator, but you may get something at late at night with a property manager. Just understand that going in, and I'm sure during your due diligence that will come up loud and clear.
You know, it's funny that's a really good point, by the way, Mark. What's funny is when you said that, I thought, well, you won't be getting any sober phone calls, but you never know if you get
someone. Very true. Very true.
All right, guys. Well, if you guys are interested in this, hey, if you're in this area in Texas and you've been in the market for a franchise, I definitely recommend reaching out to us so we can at least kind of make the introduction. It's definitely an opportunity to look into, and something that doesn't come around often. So, and just a reminder, please don't reach out to the franchisors directly. But anyways, if you guys are interested.
No, to that point, Tarek, if I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's really important. Not if you obviously we don't want you reaching out to them directly, because all they're going to do is pass you along. Coming through us, you're already getting some valuable insight to the business, the type of business, the pluses, the minuses. We can equip you in a brief conversation. Maybe this is good for you. Maybe there's something about this business that isn't right for you. We're going to work and make you we're going to understand your goals and what you're looking for. So you're way better off coming through us than any other way of going about it, because we'll make sure that we're kind of holding your hands throughout the process.
Another great point. And we give you access to a bunch of free tools that we used to charge for.
Absolutely.
All right, on to the next. So celebrating one of our clients. So every week when we do these newsletters, we like to celebrate one of our clients that became new franchise owners. And, you know, we're at an exciting point in our business and feel really grateful and honored to be at a point where we just constantly have clients who are becoming new entrepreneurs and new franchisees, because we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people at this point. And so Rita and Luis, by the way, they're in California, and when they reached out to us, they were really clear that, hey, we want to be in a business that is a need and not a want. They really wanted to be in a need-based business, and that's not everyone, but for some people, that's more important to them. And so they overall, they had found all of the options out there overwhelming when they were trying to look on their own and kind of do this all on their own. And they, were really looking for not just brokers to present them different brands, but a trusted resource, right, that would help educate them, hold their hand, so on and so forth. And we provided them all sorts of tools in their process. And so originally they were looking at some franchises that were kind of home service based, but that had some weird licensing requirements. And once they started digging into it, because California is the most exciting place to do business with, and I'm being sarcastic if you can't tell.
Completely sarcastic.
Completely. But they decided, they were like, we don't want to have to get these licenses. And although you still have to get some licenses for in-home care, but with working with our team and the guidance that we provided, and just really nailing down to what their specific goals were, what was important to them, what was going to match their lifestyle, their goals, etc. They transitioned to looking at in-home senior care, and they had actually went all the way to what's called a discovery day with the franchise. And they just had this feeling in their stomach that this wasn't quite the one, and asked us to look at some competitors. And so we found some other good options for them, and they wind up going with a different brand, actually. And so, that's where it really just helps to have some pros by your side, not just in facilitating that process of looking at the right opportunities, but the emotional roller coaster. It's not easy when you get real far down with the brand and then, something feel off, and then, you want to pivot. It's not easy to mentally and emotionally recover, because you were so excited. But that's where it helps working with someone. And I know Mark has all sorts of stories about the kind of the mental and emotional roller coaster, but it's just super key, right, Mark?
Absolutely. It's, uh, there's so much that goes into it, and you get a good relationship with these franchise development people, and nobody wants to break relationships up. But this is what they did, and this was really smart of them. They have at the end of the day, I always say this to candidates: at the end of the day, you have to trust your gut, and these folks trusted their gut, and they pivoted, and we're happy that they did. So your gut is really a very leading indicator, especially as you go through the due diligence process. You're going to learn so much more as you go down the road. Whether you're using us or you're not using some professional, you're going to have so much more knowledge. So your gut matters, and in this case, their gut mattered.
100%. All right, guys, franchise of the week. This franchise is a franchise called DutyCalls. This is funny too, because I just spent. We had a neighbor, a kid that plays with friendly with Caleb, our son, and he likes to play soccer. And I was like, all right, you guys can go in the backyard. And we're notoriously terrible for picking up after our dog, which, judge me as you may, but it's just easy to let him out, and we don't really go in the backyard. So before they went out to play soccer, I went out there with the pooper scooper, and I just filled up a giant grocery bag of poop and thought, I never want to do this again. I'm definitely hiring a company. And so that leads us to DutyCalls. Mark, please tell us about DutyCalls.
Well, almost anything. Again, anybody on the call who's worked with me or has spoken to me knows I just love the pet service industry in general. People are just insane with the money that they'll spend on taking care of their pets. This is also kind of a pet/home service brand, though, because it's also helping you. It's a pet-related service in the home industry, which is a double win. What I love about DutyCalls, first of all, and I always look at this, they started in 2000 as a company-owned location. They weren't intending to be franchise owners. They didn't have a vision in their mind that if we do this, we're going to be able to make a lot of money selling franchises. They just ran an amazing company and then waited 4 years to then say, wow, we perfected it. So when that gap is 4 years, I always like that. That looks good. And then in 2021, they were purchased by Authority Brands. That's also an amazing sign. It's a positive signal, right? Authority Brands is one of the largest family of brands in the country. They only invest in brands, that they have a need for, that their candidates have needs for, and that they've completely vetted. So the fact that Authority Brands bought them is another reason why. But again, it's the pet service and the home service industry combined. And Tara, you said it better than I do. Who wants to go outside and clean up after their dog if you don't have to? And that's what these guys are for. So this is an amazing brand. Almost any pet service brand that you look at has validity. But again, this one combines pets and home services. So it's kind of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, 100%. And guys, the numbers are low. This is why I put ultra low cost franchise. And I get it. For some of you may go, that's $65,000 to $80,000 is not low cost. Well, in the franchise world, it is. Anything under, really anything, I'd say. I don't know. What would you consider normal low cost? Sub what?
I would say this is lower than low cost. I say
Yeah.
Lower costs are between 175 and 250 grand all in for these service brands. That's low cost. This is under 100 grand, which includes the 49,000 franchise fee, right? So when you pay that franchise fee, there's only another, call it 40 grand left over, a little less. And the reason is because you just don't need a lot to get started here. You need a couple of people, a pooper scooper, and a bag, and you're off and running. So again, really low cost. And that's why these businesses are so exciting, is because you can invest in them for you don't need to mortgage your life away, and you're off and running. So this investment, you don't see virtually anything that's worth it that is under 100 grand.
Yeah, 100%. So they've got 2 corporate owned units. They got 86 franchise units, 7.5% royalty, 1.5% marketing. We talked about their total investment range. They got a 10-year term. And oh yeah, we got to start. You made that point that we need to start putting the description higher above. I'm going to make a mental note of that. So the cool thing is it's not just residential, right? So when you see those stands with the like the poop bags and parks and communities and all that sort of stuff, those are companies like DutyCalls that are putting those up and are maintaining those and year round, right? And so they'll they'll come swap them out, all that sort of stuff. So that's what this company does. Let's see, in terms of numbers. Now, this sort of business, they're not going to have the highest average sales numbers. Part of it is because think about the ratio of sales to investment, right? The investment's really low, so the sales don't have to be that high. And number two, there's really not a lot of costs with this sort of business as well. But if we take a look at, I'm looking at this other screen because it's easier to see. Average gross revenue. So the top 25% does $515,000 in sales in terms of average, 246 in terms of average, second quartile, then 81,000, 31,000. The highest grossing does 697,000 in revenue. The lowest performer does $13,000 in revenue overall. I would imagine this to be, they don't disclose any sort of profit margins in their FDD, so we really can't, we're not like compliance wise and legally, we can't talk about that, but I don't know that there's a ton of expenses with this sort of business, right, Mark?
No, there's not. And again, you can probably, again, I never like to quote margins because really margins are up to the individual operator, but these are, Tarek's right. You don't really do $3-4 million worth of revenue, but those businesses that you do have such an inflated cost structure that those profit margins, you can make the same amount of money running a DutyCalls as you can one of these $4 million, $3 million bigger service brands, but the profit at the end of the day is roughly the same. And these are a lot easier. You don't need as many people. It's just a very simple, lean business. And again, it's also an attractive business. You know, we don't talk about this very often, but there's a lot of owner operators out there, right? People who, I don't like to say buying a job because that sounds kind of pedantic. I don't mean it that way, but you invest in this business, maybe a husband and wife team, or you have a couple of kids who want to get involved in a business. It's just a great family business as well because it's just really, really simple and very moderately priced with high margin. So really attractive to lots of different types of potential franchise buyers.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. And actually, it's funny. I was kind of thinking about that before. I was like, yeah, should I say that? But to that point, Mark, is that there actually are some people, we don't get a ton of them because we really kind of work with more empire builders, people that want to build, you know, an organization, a company, a business with a team that's exitable, that has is that even a word? That has the ability to be sold. But occasionally we do have people that come in and they're like, hey, I actually, like, I don't really want to have many employees or any, and I just kind of want to do my own thing and be in a business where I just have more time freedom. This would be that sort of one where if you're like, hey, I just want to be able to put my headphones on, listen to music, drive around, do my business. Obviously you got to go out and generate business. So you got to be personal enough where you can hit the streets and, you know, sell and market and get clients. But outside of that, it kind of reminds me of, Mark, the pool service business for those guys where they just have their book of business of pool clients where it's recurring and every week they're just going cleaning pools and they're, you know, content doing that and making a good living.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a curse word to say you want to be an owner operator. And it's also very sellable because if you build up a nice owner operator business, then you sell it to somebody else who's looking for an owner operator business. So you do definitely have that exit strategy. And it doesn't mean you have to be. I mean, you can add people, you can add service people, you can build this business up as well. It just gives you multiple options. And the advantage over it, as opposed to starting your own doggy removal program is you're going to have the back end support of not only the brand, but authority brand, which is powerful. And I know you're going to get into some of those right now, Tarek. So, there are a lot worse ways to spend your professional career than owning a really excellent franchise that gives you the opportunity to run it on your own, get your family involved, or scale it up. And there's not a lot that give you that dual option. This one definitely does.
Boom. So a couple of the benefits, we may have hit on some of these already, but they have a nationwide call center, which is pretty cool, right? So the call center will that's run by the franchisor will field the leads and schedule services, so you don't have to answer incoming calls or pay for a dedicated employee to do that. You do pay a fee to the franchisor for that. Obviously, lower investment. We talked about that. They have a proprietary. I was going to try to make a joke out of that. Proprietary technology instead of proprietary.
That's good.
That's my dad joke for the day. They have proprietary technology that runs the business in the vehicles and allow customers to sign up for the service all on their own, which is pretty cool. And technology is obviously very important these days. We already talked about the fact that this is no, we may not have hit that this is a recurring revenue one, but this is a recurring revenue business where you're signing up the commercial buildings, complexes, parks, or homeowners for a recurring service. So it is a recurring business model. And overall, the business model is pretty darn simple. You're picking up, pet poop and training your team to do that and hiring. So there's not, it's just not a complicated business at all by any degree. Mark talked about authority brands and the fact that it has the backing and the strength of a strong parent company. So if you guys are interested in finding out and wanting us to check if this specific brand is available in your market, in your territory, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory and fill out your information there, and that will prompt you to scheduling a brief call with us, and we can check on that for you. Or if you're just thinking, hey, I don't know that I'm really interested in DutyCalls, but I would love to stop scouring the internet and feeling overwhelmed trying to search for franchises on my own, just spinning my wheels, and I'd like for someone to do the heavy lifting for me and be able to introduce me to brands that align with my goals and my skill sets and my budget, then you can still go to franchiseempire.com/check territory and be able to schedule a free call with our team to just learn more about you and what could be some good options.
Yeah, as you know, Tarek, we just had a gentleman who ultimately signed an agreement, not with DutyCalls, but with another pet service franchise. And when he came to us, he was looking at anything but. So again, the pet industry is a real hot one to get into now because it's not going to be slowing down soon. And I'm a dog owner. I don't fit into this category, but I love my dog, but I don't love my dog more than I love people. But most people like their animals more than they like their people. So people aren't afraid to spend money on their animals. So great opportunity in the category.
Yeah, that is funny. There are some people out there that like their animals more. And so what was that, Mark? What was the how did you guys wind up landing on pet services for him, and what sort of things was he looking at before? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was looking at home services and senior services. Those were his two hot buttons: home services and senior. And what I did was when we did the presentation, I kind of threw in a wild card because I like to give him something else to think about. And one of those wild cards was one of the pet franchises. And ultimately, he didn't invest in that one. He got interested in the concept. We did some homework and then wanted to know if they're a competing brand. And there was, and he ultimately went with that competing brand. But the reality is service brands are service brands. They have the same basic structure of how they run. And in this case, he realized, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was his spouse who really loved the pet concept. So that's kind of how we pivoted. But he didn't start out wanting to, and he just signed an agreement on Friday, which you're not signing an agreement and paying that franchise fee on a whim. You're doing it because you really believe it's going to be a valuable business for you. You're going to do a really good job.
That's so cool. What a cool story. It's always interesting to me to see and just sometimes connect with clients after they went at buying something that they just go, yeah, I would have never found this on my own, and I wasn't really on that track or thinking about that. I just think it's pretty cool when
Yeah, me
that
too.
happens.
Agreed.
All right, guys. Last but not least, the most recent episode of Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast is titled "The Truth About Buying a Food Franchise," and this was with Coach Kareem. His name is actually spelled wrong here. It's Kariem. Ironically, I have an uncle named Kareem that spells his name like this. But Kareem was a multi, and it looks like we spelled franchisee wrong as well.
Yeah.
So whoever on our team did this, my goodness.
We have some dyslexic people on our squad. We're gonna have to fix that up, I think. Yes.
Right. Yeah, Kareem was a multi-unit Little Caesars franchisee. He owns one location now, sold one of his locations. He does some coaching for our franchisees after they sign their franchise agreement. One of the things that makes us unique here at Franchise Empire is we continue to provide some additional support to you after you sign your franchise agreement by people who have been there, done that. And so this is Kareem telling his story and, how he got into owning Little Caesars. What are some of his challenges? Like just realities of running the business. So this isn't a fluff piece, right, to make you feel good. It's just him and I just sitting down and having a conversation. And it just so happens to be recorded and be a podcast. And this was an in-person podcast episode as well. So go check that out. If you haven't already, you can go to the Franchise Empire YouTube channel. That's where we post our podcast episodes now. We have the Tarek Johnson YouTube channel. We have the Franchise Empire one. This is on the Franchise Empire one. And wherever you listen to your podcast, you can grab it there too. Just look up 0 to Profitable Franchise. Outside of that, we're all set. So these newsletters, we send them out every Sunday morning. franchiseempire.com/newsletter if you're not on our list. And then either Mark or I, or Mark and I, will go live and share the newsletter at 3 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Anything else to add before we rock and roll, Mark?
No. Always great to do these, and I hope we give anybody listening at least one piece of information that's going to be beneficial to them going forward.
Likewise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you, guys.